Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. And today I am back for another reading of my book, The Before Now and After Then by Peter Monn. That's me. I'm reading it and I wrote it. So let's get in here today and let's start with chapter, I'm putting my bookmark over here so I know where it's at. Chapter 17. I can't believe you didn't tell me you had a boyfriend, Cher screamed, standing outside of my locker. She was dressed in all black and had a veil of lace safety pinned over her hat, covering her face. I'm not sure if he really is yet or not. And you got that fantastic car, she exclaimed as she dramatically threw herself up against the locker. Life is so unfair. While everything wonderful is happening to you, my life is falling apart. She motioned to the veil. As you can see, I'm in mourning for the loss of the love of my life. I didn't even think you liked him that much anymore. I shut my locker and we started walking down the hallway. I didn't, she sighed. But what else do I have to get upset about? We reached our last class, English, and sat down next to each other. Maybe you'll find someone you like better. No, I'm destined to be an old maid. The girl next to Cher stared at her like she had never seen anything like her before. Can I help you? Cher said, dismissing her with her hand. There are no real guys for me my age anyway. I think I need an older man, maybe someone in college or medical school. Hey, maybe we could ditch someday and go to some campus or hospital and walk around like we're college students, and then I'll try to find a boyfriend. I laughed, sure, feeling my phone buzz in my pocket. It was last period and I hadn't seen Rusty all day. He hadn't responded to my text from the night before or any of my texts I had sent throughout the day, making me a little worried that something was seriously wrong. I pulled out my phone, hoping it would be Rusty, and read a text from Mom telling me she was going to Dad's and wouldn't be home after school. I didn't know what was going on, but they had been spending a lot of time together, and I wondered if they were trying to work things out. When they had first separated, they had told me that they were just taking a break, explaining that it wasn't just about the affair, which I obviously knew about, or Sam's death, but that they had just grown apart. But we're gonna work on things, Dad had said. We're not divorcing. We're just taking a break for a while. Mom had nodded, but I wasn't sure how much I believed either one of them. I glanced back over at Cher and caught her applying a thick coat of red lipstick. We were reading To Kill a Mockingbird, which we had read at my old school as freshmen, and it was still one of my favorite books. After we had finished the book, we watched the movie, and I had fallen more in love with the characters after seeing them come to life on the screen. That year for Christmas, Mom bought me the special edition DVD of the movie, and I had watched it every night for months. To me, the book represented a perfect childhood filled with mystery and innocence, much like the childhood Sam and I had growing up. I loved watching the scenes where Scout, Jim, and Dill would talk about Boo Radley and try to figure out how they were going to see him. At the time, I had even wished we had some Boo Radley type person, misunderstood yet gentle, living in our neighborhood. This class is so boring, Cher said. I hate this book. I thought it was funny how something you loved so much was so disgusting to someone else. It's one of my favorites, I told her, but it fell on deaf ears as she was already searching through her backpack, flipping through sheets of paper. After school, I gave Cher a ride home. Have you started to fix up your room yet? I shook my head. Maybe you should just let it flow out of you organically, she suggested as she puffed on her cigarette while getting out of the car. Just do whatever feels right. And do not make me wait 24 hours to find out about any major life events either. I drove immediately to Rusty's house. He still hadn't texted me, and I assumed he had just slept all day since we didn't get much sleep the night before. By the time I got there, I still hadn't heard from him, even though I had texted him twice and called him 3 times on my way over. I rang the doorbell and waited, but nobody answered. Just as I was about to walk away, his grandma answered the door. Is Rusty home, I asked. She just stared at me. Is Rusty here? She continued to stare at me for another minute, and then she closed the door. I waited for a few seconds before deciding to leave, confused and having no idea about what was going on. I sat in my car and looked up at Rusty's room, but the blinds were drawn. I called him one more time and left a message. Hey, it's me. I've been trying to get in touch with you all day, but you're not calling or texting back, so I'm starting to worry. Call me when you get this. After that, I wasn't really sure what to do, so I decided to drive home since I didn't have anything else to do. I started wondering if I had done something wrong or if maybe he got into trouble because his mom knew I had stayed so late. I parked in the driveway and was grabbing my backpack from the back seat when I saw the record Rusty had bought me on the floor. I grabbed it and walked inside. Mom was sitting in the kitchen writing in a notebook. What's up, I said. I thought you were going to be with Dad. She looked distracted and held a finger up, silencing me, writing something in the notebook, and then closed it. I'm writing a song. Alex and I are thinking about starting up our band again. Starting up our old band. Really, I asked? Yes, what's wrong with that? Nothing. Wasn't Dad in the band too? Yes, she said slowly, opening the notebook again and writing something else inside. I thought you texted me that you were hanging out with Dad today. What's going on with you guys anyway? What do you mean? She walked over to the refrigerator and took out a Diet Coke. You guys have just been spending a lot of time together, I cried. No, we haven't, she said defensively. You've gone over there a couple of nights. Mom sighed. We're trying to decide what each of us wants before your dad moves out. We're just going through old stuff. You didn't ask me to go through anything. You can have anything you want, Danny, she said softly as she crossed the room to sit next to me. Maybe we should go over there and go through your room together. I nodded. I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to box Sam up and put him away. When do you want to go? When do you want to do it? We can go right now if you want, Mom suggested. Right now? Sure. Mom grabbed her purse from the kitchen table and put on her sunglasses. All right, I said, standing up and following her out to the car. We were silent on our drive over to the house. I hadn't stayed there in weeks, and it felt strange to pull into the driveway in my new car. Somehow, the old and the new just didn't weave together comfortably. Our old house wasn't brand new like the house Mom had bought. It was dated in an older part of town where the lawns were long and the lawns were long and the trees bloomed differently in every yard. I'd always loved the neighborhood because it felt like it should be in a Halloween movie with kids trick-or-treating up and down the streets in the late afternoon. The house was white clapboard with a large wraparound porch. We walked up the front steps and Mom unlocked the front door. I was surprised to find that much of the furniture in the house had already been moved out, leaving the rooms barren. I should have told you that your father and I had been moving stuff into the storage this whole last week. It felt like a secret that everyone was keeping from me, and until that moment, I didn't realize how much the house had felt like a member of my family for so many years. I walked up the stairs, each step putting a strain on my breathing as I thought back on the day of the accident. I remember the red polo and jeans Sam was wearing when he ran down the stairs that morning and him throwing a hacky sack for Griffin to catch in the front yard because Griffin would catch a hacky sack but never a tennis ball or stick. I remembered him winking at me and giving me the thumbs up as he backed out of the driveway. I remembered sitting on the front porch, and I remembered listening to Mom and Dad's fight. I remembered the policeman at our front door, and I remembered Mom collapsing into his arms. I remember going to the hospital, and I remembered sitting in the back seat of Mom's car on the way home, holding Sam's belongings, his watch carefully wrapped in a Ziploc bag on top of another Ziploc bag containing Griffin's collar spotted with blood. I remembered taking the watch out of the bag and putting it on my wrist. I remembered it all. It was too much. I grabbed the banister and stood in place. I tried to catch my breath. Are you okay, honey? I shook my head. Mom told me to sit down, but I couldn't move. She kept talking, but I could hardly hear her. She sounded extremely far away. What I had avoided feeling for so many months rushed into me, and I felt like I was drowning from the emotions. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I'm going to get you some water, Mom said, running into the kitchen. I gripped my fingers around the edge of the wooden stairs, trying to steady myself, but the staircase seemed to get longer and longer. My heart was thumping so hard in my chest, I felt like it would explode, and I was afraid of being there alone. Mom, I cried out. I'm right here, she said, running back up the stairs from the kitchen. She lifted the glass to my lips, and I could feel the cold water run down my throat. I can't breathe, I screamed, feeling my heart race even faster, so fast that my chest was starting to hurt. Mom rubbed my back. Yes, you can, honey, or you wouldn't be able to talk. Take a deep breath for me. I tried, but I couldn't. She grabbed my hands, but the sensation in my fingertips started to dance away as the room became cloudy and everything faded to black. When I woke up, I was laying in my old bed. Mom and Dad were sitting on Sam's bed watching me. What happened? You fainted, honey. I called your dad and we brought you up here. You've been asleep for hours. She walked over and sat down next to me. This fainting thing is really starting to worry me. Me too, Dad said. We're going to get you in to see a doctor as soon as possible. I sat up and looked around the room, getting my bearings. I don't need to see a doctor. We'll decide what you do and don't need, Dad said, and this has gone on long enough. We should have had this checked out years ago. Outside, it was dark. The streetlights beamed through the windows. Well, it's obviously not just for me being teased, I said, looking at Mom. That's true, she smiled, patting my back. I think we should wait for another day to do the room. She stood up and walked to the door. No, I want to do it now, I said. Are you sure? Yeah, we're already here. I stood up slowly, surveying the room. Can I just take what I want and leave the rest for you guys to box up? Mom looked at Dad and smiled. I think that's a great idea. She walked out into the hall and grabbed a box and set it down inside the door. We'll leave you alone and just let us know when you're done. They both hugged me and walked out of the room. I sat back down on the edge of the bed for a long time. Finally, I walked over and fell onto Sam's bed, thinking about all the times we had wrestled each other growing up. His pillow faintly smelled of something that reminded me of him. I picked up the box and put it on my bed, emptying my desk drawers into it. I then did the same with Sam's, but nothing in the box felt important to me. I took a framed picture of Sam and Jess, as well as a picture of the two of us sitting in our new Jeep, and placed them in the box. A few weeks after he had died, I thought I might find a journal or secret notes or something hidden, but I had found nothing. Sam had been as honest and real in death as he had been in life. Other than his lacrosse jerseys and medals, pictures stacked into a shoebox and neatly kept desk, there was nothing that defined Sam. I wanted to find something that would always remind me of him and who he was, something that defined his personality like he was still alive. Walking to my side of the room, I found it was more desperate than Sam's. Of course, I'd already taken most of my clothes to Mom's, but nothing identified the room as being mine other than a giant wood cutout that said Danny over my bed. I grabbed Sam's pillow and held it tight to my chest, pulling in that smell that reminded me of him. I put the box on his desk and walked out of the room, taking only the pillow. When I walked downstairs, Mom was sitting on the front porch with the door wide open. "I'm ready," I said. She turned around and saw me holding the pillow. "Is that all you're taking?" I nodded. "Are you sure?" "Yeah," I whispered. "Nothing really feels like his anymore." "Okay," she replied. "Come sit down next to me for a minute." I walked outside and sat next to her. She held on firmly to a cup of coffee in a blue mug with a white chip on it. I remembered we had bought it for her for Mother's Day one year in Michigan. Dad had given Sam and I money to buy Mom a gift, and after roaming the tourist shops that lined the street, we went into a small coffee shop and found the mug. It had been her favorite mug ever since, and I had rarely seen her drink coffee from anything else. She took a sip and put her head on my shoulder. "This has been a good home to us." I smiled, pushing back tears. "Yeah, I'm gonna miss it." "Me too," she said, and started to cry. "I feel like once it's gone, I won't be able to see him anymore. In my memory, I only see him here." I nodded. I knew exactly what she meant. "But I can't be here anymore. It makes me too sad," she said. We sat there for the longest time in silence, watching some little kids ride their bikes back and forth down the street. I miss you guys at that age. Sometimes, I wish I could just go back and stop time forever. She sat up and grabbed her purse from behind her, taking out her wallet. "What are you doing?" I asked as Mom searched through her change, looking at every coin. "I'm finding a good year," she said. "Aha, 2001. That was a good year." "It was?" "Yes, it was the year we moved into this house." She stood up and walked over to the huge beech tree that Sam and I had climbed when we were kids. "Come on, help me." She got on her knees and started digging in the ground. "What exactly are we doing?" I asked. "We're planting a memory. That way, there will always be part of us here, no matter whose house it becomes." I got down on my knees and started digging in the ground next to her. The earth felt good in my fingers. I noticed she was crying, almost hysterically, although silent, and it made me start crying too. We dug until we reached a large root of the tree, and then Mom handed me the shiny penny. "Kiss it and make a wish." I kissed the penny and threw it into the hole. We piled the dirt back on top and patted it down until it looked like there had never been a hole. "Perfect," she said, dusting off her hands and sitting back on her heels, looking deep into the invisible hole. A grave for 1-cent memories. For a few minutes, we were silent, and then she stood up and started walking back to the porch. "Are you ready?" I nodded and grabbed Sam's pillow, throwing it into the back seat of the car. I ran up to the front door one last time and looked inside. "Mom?" "Yes, honey." "I don't ever want to come back here, okay?" She nodded, not being able to hold back the tears. I looked up the stairs one last time and whispered, "Goodbye, Sam." And then I turned and walked out of the house. Mom closed the door behind me, lingering as she turned the key. We got into the car, and Mom handed me the sailboat coffee mug before she started the engine. "I love you, Danny," she said, grabbing my hand. "I love you too, Mom," I said, holding on firmly. I looked at the house as she backed out of the driveway, watching all of the memories float by on a penny. As she drove away, the house grew smaller and smaller, and just as it was almost out of sight, I could have sworn I saw 2 little blonde-haired boys climbing the tree in our front yard, waiting for an adventure. Where am I at on time? Whew. Chapter 18. Rusty was sitting on our front porch when we got home. His mom's minivan was parked in front of the house. Mom got out. "Hi, Rusty," Mom said, touching his arm as she passed by him and walked into the house. "What's wrong with her?" Rusty asked me, his gaze following my mom as she closed the door behind her. "It's just been a really long day." I looked down at the ground and kicked a rock, hitting Rusty's leg. "What's wrong with you?" he asked. "Did I do something wrong?" "No. What would make you think that?" "Well, you never texted me back last night. I didn't hear from you all day today. When I stopped by your house, your grandma wouldn't let me see you." "Wait a second," Rusty said. "I lost my phone, which is why I didn't text you back. And my grandma doesn't speak any English, so she probably didn't understand what you were saying to her." "But where were you today?" I asked. Rusty sighed. "Maya woke up really sick this morning, so we had to take her to the hospital. I've been there all day with my mom." I suddenly felt like a complete asshole. "Oh, I'm sorry. Why would you think you did anything wrong? Last night was perfect." He walked over and hugged me, putting his hands in my back pocket. "Is Maya okay?" "Yeah, the doctors ran a bunch of tests, but she seems better now. My mom let me use her van, but I have to take my grandma back down to the hospital." I looked up at him. "You really lost your phone?" Yeah, but I think I know where it is. He let go and walked over to the passenger side of my car and opened the door. Looking under the seat, he pulled out the Cure album and showed it to me, then pulled out his phone and held it up. Here it is. I thought maybe it had slid under there yesterday. It's completely dead. I laughed. Well, you have about 10 phone calls and texts from me. That's sweet, he said, kissing my cheek. I can't stay. I promised I'd come right back. But I'll charge my phone and I promise I'll call and text. Do you want me to pick you up for school in the morning? No, I don't know if I'll be back to school tomorrow. It all depends on if my mom needs me to help with Carlos, Rusty said. Okay. But I promise tomorrow night we'll hang out. Maybe we can finally cash in on our messing around rain check from the other night. I smiled. It was better just falling asleep in your bed. Maybe we can fall asleep in your bed next time, he said, kissing me goodbye before leaving. I grabbed Sam's pillow from the car and walked inside, finding the house in complete darkness. Upstairs, I found Alex reading in the guest bedroom. Your mom went to sleep. Sounds like you gave everyone a bit of a scare today. I guess, I said, standing in the doorway. How's Rusty? Good. I thought he was mad at me. Why? Alex asked. Because I hadn't heard from him all day. I thought maybe I had done something wrong. You didn't hear from him for one day and you thought he was mad at you, Alex asked. Imagine if you guys had been apart for years. I laughed. If I didn't hear from him for years, I would probably expect him to be mad. Alex raised his eyebrow. Really? Sometimes love takes us places we don't understand until we get there. What do you mean? I asked. I mean that people like absolutes. They like hearing things like, I'll love you forever and I will always love you. That's not really how life works. He closed his book and took off his glasses. Life and love are these confusing travels when all we're really looking for is a way to get home. And home is here, he said, pointing to his heart. Is that what you're looking for? I asked. Maybe, maybe not. I haven't decided yet. I yawned. I'm confused and I'm going to bed. Alex laughed. What are you confused about? All this talk about travels and journeys. Why can't adults just speak normally? Do you like Rusty? He asked. Yes. Does he feel like home to you? I thought about this for a moment. Maybe it was too soon to tell, but there was something about being with Rusty that made me feel safe. When I curled up next to him in his bed, it had felt like I had come home. I nodded. If you didn't see Rusty for 10 or 20 years and then you saw him again from across the room, would it still feel the same? I tried to imagine not seeing him for that many years, but it made me sad. I don't know. I guess I don't want to find out. When you do, you'll know if he's your own something to live for. What's that? I asked. Love, Alex said. It's the meaning of life. People get so confused thinking of the purpose of life is about the perfect career or place to live, but that's all a bunch of crap. The meaning of life is spending it with the people who feel like home to you, and finding that one special person who's your something to live for is the ultimate goal. I leaned up against the door. Have you had your own something to live for, or is it just a quote from your book? No, I had mine, he said. How did you know? Alex was silent for a moment. You know, because the first thing you think about every morning is that other person. You live your days wanting to make them happier than you can ever imagine being. You find yourself thinking about them all of the time and imagining being with them when you're not. It's not obsessive love, it's shared love because they feel the same way about you. What happened to yours? Alex leaned back against the pillows. That's a long story and it's getting late. Maybe another time. He opened his book and I turned around. But Danny, he said, catching my attention, as much as I don't want you to get hurt finding out if Rusty is the one, sometimes getting hurt is the important part of the journey. Is that why people say that teenagers don't know what love is? I think that statement is a bunch of bullshit. Love feels the same at 15 as it does at 40. I hung on those last words as I walked out of the room, echoing my goodnight with a wave. When I got to my room, I took off my clothes, turned on my fan, and got right into bed. I was exhausted. I took off Sam's watch and put it on my nightstand next to my phone. As soon as I turned off the lights, my phone buzzed to life. I picked it up and saw that Rusty had sent me a picture of himself pulling his hair with his mouth open like he was in agony. I'm going crazy not being able to be with you all the time, he texted. I smiled and turned on the light, taking a picture of myself with my eyes closed, kissing the air. I'm kissing you right now, I texted back. Talk to you tomorrow. You too. And that is our reading for the day. So chapter 17 and 18, and tomorrow we will start chapter 19. Anyway, I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.